Hello, and welcome to another episode of Moron or Genius. Now, if you watched the last video, you'll know I kind of ended up looking like a moron. I don't want you all to think that I'm just some kind of jackass that only speculates on silly modern, so I thought I'd show off one of my classic Golden Age comics you can see right over there to my left. Who's the moron now, huh? Anyway, so I'm back with another Star Wars comic. I promise that someday I'll get to other comics, but right now, due to time constraints, there's a couple other Star Wars things I'd like to get to first. So today we're going to be talking about Star Wars Solo Adaptation issue number 1. So a lot of fans threw a temper tantrum because they weren't happy with The Last Jedi and boycotted Solo. I actually really enjoyed Solo and felt that it was as good or better than any of the recent Star Wars movies that have come out. I also think that Disney made a big mistake by leasing out the rights to Solo prior to the debut of Disney Plus, so they haven't been able to stream it. Here they had a huge captive audience at home due to the pandemic watching the Star Wars series in its entirety, yet they didn't have Solo to watch, and I think maybe that would have helped redeem the film a little bit because I'm sure a lot of people would have watched it and probably have enjoyed it. So I'm bringing this up because this movie becomes available July 9th on Disney Plus, obviously, and if you haven't watched it, you should. There are a couple really cool things in this movie, but definitely one of the highlights is watching the formation of one of the greatest duos ever to be recorded on film. Ponch and John? No. Cheech and Chong? Not quite. Rodman and Claude? No, not that either. Han and Chewie. That's right. This movie tells the story of how they met. It also has the first realistic live-action depiction of what a 7 to 8 foot tall Wookiee would actually do to a human in hand-to-hand combat, and it is hilarious. Now, if you didn't notice, issue number 1 of the Solo adaptation has a Luke Ross 1 for 50 incentive variant. And on that cover is a depiction of when Han met Chewie. So per Comic Chron, issue number 1 sold only 25,270 copies. Now divide that by 50 and you're left with the number 505. Roll the disclaimer.
I realize these numbers are just a report of how many copies were ordered and does not depict the actual number of copies printed or taking into account the number of copies sold overseas. There's an overprint to cover damages and various other things I don't care about. Is there a minimum print run per Marvel comic? I don't know. Possibly, but I don't care about that either. Why don't I care? Because the same thing can be said for every single comic ever listed in a comic run, so continually repeating it is superfluous. This comic is still extremely rare in comparison to the average Marvel comic, so let's just leave it at that. Thank you for understanding, and let's get back to the video.
Maybe the better thing to do in this situation is to compare it to another 1 for 50 with a relatively low print run, like let's say the Miss Marvel number 2 Melina variant. A 9.8 of this variant recently sold for $1,725. That's a lot of Gouda. Ooh. What was the print run on this book, you ask? 38,537. How many 9.8s are on the CGC census? 21. So there were 13,267 less Solo number 1 comics ordered than Miss Marvel number 2, which is a little over 1/3 less. I think we can agree that's quite a bit less. There's also only currently one 9.8 Ross variant on the census. I know a lot of that has to do with popularity and a lack of submission attempts, but if you can't math, that's only one more than 0. So relatively speaking, there are very few copies of this comic out there depicting the meeting of the greatest duo of all time, yet people decide to spend their money on Ewoks comics. Ewoks. Now, I bought several of these when they came out, and they have that crappy Marvel paper with a primarily black advertisement on the back that's basically a magnet for color rub. I subbed 2 to CGC, and both came back 9.6. Since then, I've been able to pick up a few more possible 9.8 candidates, but I really don't know if they'll make it. And more importantly, will people ever come to embrace this movie or this comic? I definitely don't know the answer to that. But I sure would think so. I mean, Ewoks? What's wrong with you people? So I currently still have one 9.6 that I had graded that cost me $87.85 total. And I paid $130.13 for 3 more raw copies that are so close to possibly being 9.8s, but I just don't know to that damn paper. So go ahead and comment below on whether you think I'm a moron or a genius for having a little bit of faith in this movie and these comics. Does the belief that the demand for this comic will heat up over time make me a moron? I refuse to accept that. So I'm calling genius on this one. So there's also a Forbes 1 for 25 in this series that's pretty cool. It's got Kira on the cover, who plays Han's love interest in the film. She's pretty awesome. Also, Darth Maul makes a cameo in the movie. Originally, there was supposed to be a sequel with him in it. So I'm slightly more than upset by the crybaby fans that decided to boycott this and possibly ended the chance at having another live action movie with Darth Maul in it. I mean, you know that all 20 years from now you're gonna be like, Rose Tico was amazing. Oh, that was so fantastic. Just like you're doing with Jar Jar Binks now and Ewoks. I mean, I got nothing else to say today. Thanks for watching, and maybe I'll see you again soon.